Hi, everyone. I'm here with Phil Reichers, one of the contributing authors for Mortgage Manager Mastery. Phil's chapter is on motivation and morale, creating a positive team culture. Phil is SVP at ServiceLink. He's the national sales manager. Prior to that, he ran sales staff at AnyMac and Pentagon Federal Credit Union and others. So, Phil, talk to us about the one big idea you want managers to take away from your chapter.
Yeah, so Pat, again, thanks for having me today, and it's an honor to be a part of your excellent book.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, to make it simple, I'd say I've always found it that I like to try to do things that salespeople like. I know it sounds simple, but I think sometimes with the minutia of the day to day, I think we kind of get away from that sometimes. But I would say ability to communicate clearly, concisely, and quickly with the right answer is of utmost importance. You want salespeople to come to you when they need help. They're not going to do that if you're going to take up too much of their time, or you're not going to get right to the point and actually solve or help them solve a problem. So I always like to try to communicate in the way that salespeople like to be communicated to, because they don't all want to be communicated the same way. Some are better with email versus text versus phone call, et cetera. So you got to figure that out as well. And then when you show them that you're going to be an effective communicator, you also set the SLA without knowing it internally within your team that
Yeah.
you are going to expect that with their prospects, their customers, et cetera. So I don't ever want to be known as a time waste. I want to always be known as a value add to my salespeople, my customers, my prospects. And that's something I try to convey and get across every interaction I have.
Well, you made that point certainly in the chapter, and I thought it was an excellent point that you don't want to waste salespeople's time, which I think is really an important concept. So, if you had to talk about one action step that a manager could take tomorrow to put this idea in place, what would be your suggestion?
Yeah, that's a great question, Pat. I think, a lot of salespeople assume that, or sorry, sales managers, I'm sorry, assume that all salespeople are solely financially motivated. And
Hmm.
while that's a big part of it, I think there's more to it than that, especially from a manager perspective, because obviously you only can control the compensation once, maybe, and just but so much, right? And then it's kind of up to them to excel. But you've got to keep them motivated. And again, back to doing things that they like. You need to applaud them when they're doing well
Hmm.
publicly. It's good to do that, especially amongst their peers, to hear other people doing well. If there's a crucial conversations or coaching that needs to take place, it's probably more done on a one-on-one basis, definitely not publicly there. But you got to figure out a way to get to them on a maybe more of an emotional level to see what actually motivates them rather than just financial. Maybe it's as simple as a little congratulatory text on a
Hmm.
tough loan that got closed, or maybe if you're going to travel to meet somebody, maybe you take them out for a coffee before the meeting just to
Hmm.
see how they're doing, and thank them for the hard work that they've done. And I think things like that, bonding with your sales team, are very important and can definitely help motivate them to get through. And I think people forget that it's not just a financial motivation, and that's also why people leave if it's simply just a financial means.
Yeah, well, it's the famous saying goes is that they don't leave a company, they leave the manager. And so you hit on a really good point. So we talked about just before we got on this call about the future. So let's talk a little bit about what opportunities do you see for managers in the next few years?
Yeah, there's as we kind of said, there's a lot of different ways now to communicate with your
Mm,
sales team because of technology. And the
mm,
reality is there's not as many people in the office where a sales manager would typically be located
mm,
anymore. Most people are at home. If you have a big territory, you've got people in multiple locations as well. The advent of technology has allowed us to do exactly what we're doing today, Pat. We're
yeah.
interacting virtually, and we're getting to know each other that way. So I think for a sales manager, they've got to be able to adapt. You may not be able to make the regular, sales rounds with your salespeople anymore because there just aren't people in the offices
Right.
as often as they used to be. So you've got to figure out how to use technology in the future of mortgage lending, and then you got to be able to deliver the right message effectively as well. So that's where I come in, and any other good sales manager would come in, and help craft that message and then figure out other means and ways to communicate that effectively.
Well, what would be some of the takeaways that we've already discussed some important points, but one takeaway that you would like to leave today for our listeners?
Yeah, just build trust with your team, be supportive, and communicate with them. The first two I just said go hand in hand with the
Right.
communication part. You have to be able to communicate with your sales manager, but you have to be able to do it clearly, concisely, and accurately. And that will set the stage for what the expectations are for the team because you are able to do it. That would
Great
be my
point.
advice there, Pat.
Great point. And so Phil's chapter is really powerful. I'd highly recommend certainly reading it. And certainly for all those listening today and watching today, if you want to go deeper into ideas, certainly go to Mortgage Manager Mastery to, in essence, look at the book and purchase the book. Thanks so much, Phil.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks for having me.